Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Amanda, and this is a vlog of my late autism and ADHD diagnosis experience. Today I'm actually going to be talking about two of my other neurodivergencies that I have, which are aphantasia, which is the inability to visualize, and in my case I have multi-sensory aphantasia. That means I don't experience any of the senses in my mind. And I also have a memory disorder called SDAM, which stands for severely deficient autobiographical memory. And before I get into those, ADHD moment that I need to talk about, after I filmed my last video, I was having issues with my editing software. When I ran an upgrade on the editing software, it did not like my video driver anymore, and I could not get it to work. So I ended up having to use a freebie editing software on my phone for my last video. And then I was going to email the company, the customer support, and see if I could figure out why the program stopped working, because everything I Googled just wasn't working. ADHD, literally out of sight, out of mind, completely forgot to do it. I uploaded that video, and then because I wasn't necessarily thinking of my next video, poof, went out of my brain. So this video will also be edited on my phone, and I'm going to make a more concerted effort to reach out to Filmora Wondershare and figure out why my update broke the program. Anyway, the joys of YouTube. So I got a really interesting question on one of my previous videos that I had done about SDAM. So if you are interested in this topic, definitely check out the playlist of both of these. I have one for SDAM, my memory disorder, and one for aphantasia. And sometimes they overlap, and sometimes I will stick to one topic on a video. But somebody asked, and I did not rewatch the video, so that is something that's kind of funny. When I get, ADHD tangent, when I get a comment, a lot of times I use the context clues of the comment to remember what I said in the video, because my memory disorder, I don't remember everything that I've said in videos. I will completely forget huge things about the video. And so every once in a while, somebody will leave a comment that I'm like, what does that relate to this video? What did I say in that video that would make this comment make sense? And sometimes I don't have time to deal with it, and I just have to let it go. And I can either answer the comment based on what I probably might have said, and I'll leave a note saying I don't remember and I didn't have time to watch. Or every once in a while, if I have time, I will kind of skim through a video to try to figure out what they were pointing to, what the comment was trying to reference. But the other day, I got a comment on one of my old memory disorder videos, and I don't remember what I was talking about in that video. I have no idea. I was obviously talking about a memory because of the comment. But I don't remember what that memory was unless I took time to rewatch the video. And honestly, I don't really love rewatching my videos. It's a very weird experience for me, because watching videos doesn't bring back memory of me filming the video. So if you're new here, my memory disorder is severely deficient autobiographical memory. That means that I don't have autobiographical, which are also called episodic memories. So if I'm watching a video back of myself, cognitively, I know that's me in that video. I can recognize myself, but I don't have the memory of actually filming it. That's your autobiographical memory, the experiences of the life that you're living. Most people, when they think back on their memories, they're reliving in their mind that experience that they had. I can't relive experiences. I can know it happened, but I can't relive it, if that makes sense. So when I do talk about memories that I have, because I do have semantic memory, and I'll have emotional memory, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about, and I have muscle memory. So if I talk about a semantic memory, and if I get emotional in the present day, like when I'm telling that story, I'm not reliving the emotions from the past. I am having new current feelings about what happened. And so that was what the question was. They were like, the comment was saying, you said that you don't have memories of like your previous experience, but you're obviously showing emotions from it. And they were asking, like, can you explain this? And so I did type out a long comment, but I thought it would be good to make a video on it also. And sometimes I can like use logic to realize like, oh, I probably was really happy that day, or probably was really sad about that thing that happened. But I don't necessarily remember, like, and I can't like remember what it actually felt like in that moment. Now, right now, if I'm telling like a story that had happened, for instance, let's just bring up a little trauma. Every time I talk about my 16th birthday, I get upset in the present tense. Like, I don't remember being 16. I can't relive that experience, but I get upset in the current day for that 16-year-old teenager and how sad she must have felt. Long story short, I had a big 16th birthday planned and nobody showed up to my birthday party. And while it sounds like, oh, poor pitiful you, like, get over yourself, it was a very common experience for me. I'm an eternal optimist, so I'd put myself in these situations where I would build up really hope, and then my friends would constantly disappoint me by not showing up or bailing on me because some other more fun thing happened. And it was just like, looking back, it's like, oh, I was autistic and didn't know it, and social differences is part of the diagnostic criteria. And looking back at my life, you can see where I struggled with friendships over and over and over. But, and that's why I have CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, because whenever it's my current birthday, I get a lot, like, I get depressed and anxious, and it's all of these upset feelings that stem back from earlier childhood birthdays of people saying they were going to show up and then just not showing up. And CPTSD is like way more complex than that. I am simplifying it for the sake of this video. But that leads to the next point, what I was going to say is emotional memory. So emotional memory, it like lives in your body. If something happens like that birthday party, or like a time when I get really angry or super embarrassed, that is going to create a memory for me. It's not going to it's not going to create an episodic memory. Again, I still will not remember the event. I won't be able to relive the event, but it's more likely that semantically, which means just knowledge, I'm going to know it happened. So to give an example of like an embarrassing moment for me was, don't we love sharing these on the internet? When a friend of mine one time, she came to me and she told me she was worried that she might have cancer. So that day that she told me, I don't remember it, but knowing who I am and how I would respond to things, I can make educated guesses that I listened to her, I can consoled her. I, asked her what her plans were, if like she had upcoming doctor's appointments, like how much information she had, just those kinds of things, right? Well, then this is a friend I don't talk to that often. And oftentimes, like people with ADHD, out of sight, out of mind, just like I said at the beginning of this video, talking about I wasn't using the editing software, so I completely forgot about it. Like 2 weeks or so went by, and I meant to check up on this friend. But because I have ADHD, I forgot. Coupled with my memory disorder, where I forget conversations that I have with people, I completely 100% forgot that she told me she was worried that she had cancer. This is a thing that most people would not forget, but the way my brain works, I forgot it. And so I texted her to see if she could go to lunch one day. This was like about 2 weeks after we had that conversation. And she responded and said, "No, I've got my doctor's appointment today. I am not up for having lunch." And she reminded me that she is really struggling with cancer. And I get that she was probably a little off put because I hadn't checked up on her in 2 weeks. Which, very valid. I, at that moment, felt so embarrassed that then sealed into my memory that this friend was having a cancer scare. And now it was not going to be forgotten because of my embarrassment. Yes, it's making about me, but my brain, is like trying to preserve me. And so because I was so embarrassed that I forgot, I now have never forgotten that she went through this cancer scare. The first time, it wasn't as emotional to me. Like, yes, I was upset for her, but like at the time also, she didn't have very much information. So just an update, she did not have cancer. She's perfectly fine. And it was a very big, intense, scary thing that she went through. She had to actually do some kinds of treatments because it potentially could turn into something. And see, all of that part I don't remember. But this also is a friend that I'm not really friends with anymore because of autism. So I have not talked to her in over a year because one of the diagnostic criteria of autism is social. They use deficits. I like to say differences. And because of communication issues of things like talking to her around her cancer, and then another big upsetting thing that happened in her life, and my autistic brain couldn't communicate with her in a way that worked for her allistic brain. Feelings were hurt, and that's a whole nother conversation about intent versus impact, but my intentions were good. My impact wasn't. And friendships tend to dissolve. Anyway, I'm getting a little off course. Whew. And see, like right now, currently, I'm feeling overwhelmed bringing up all of these emotional conversations and missing this friend that I really enjoyed, but because I sometimes struggle to communicate, the friendship ended. Okay, I did not know I was going there, but anyway, that's where I went today. This video ended up being longer than I thought. I don't know if I will talk about aphantasia. I'll probably leave that for another video, another time. But I also wanted to say, so the semantic memory is just your knowledge. Your episodic is reliving the events. I talked about emotional memory. And your muscle memory is where your body just remembers how to do things. Like, people talk about the bicycle example all the time. But there are also times where, for instance, I may go in the kitchen to cook a dish I haven't cooked in a long time. And I will stand there and I'm like, oh, dang it, I forgot how to do this. But I'll start pulling out the ingredients. And it's like my body just sort of remembers, like, oh yeah, you're supposed to fry this part, or do, you know, and like, I'm not really remembering, but like, it's coming back to me just because of the emotions of making the dish were so familiar. If it's something that I used to make all the time and I just hadn't for a while. Another one I've talked about on this one before, on the channel before, because this one just blew my mind away, where I used to sew a lot in high school, but when I went to college, I could not bring my sewing machine. I just didn't have room for it in a dorm. And so I didn't touch a sewing machine for like 4+ years. And then when I got married, I pulled out my sewing machine. I got married right out of college. I pulled out my sewing machine and I sat there and I was like, dang it, I forgot how to sew. Like, I could hardly remember where the on button was. And I don't know why, but I just like put my hands on the sewing machine and all of a sudden, like, it reached down, it turned the button on. My body started like, oh yeah, this is how you thread it. And it was like the muscle memory came back to my hands. And it's just absolutely fascinating, because when I was looking at the sewing machine, I was like, I don't know how to turn this on. I don't know, how does this thing work? And just by touching it, it brought everything back. It's really cool. I would be interested for people who don't have a memory disorder, because you have all these types of memories too. I just have episodic memory, doesn't work. But if there's something like a craft you haven't done in a long time, or I don't know, something that you used to do a lot that required movement, I'm curious if you were to touch that thing or start to try to do that thing, if it would come back to you. That'd be really interesting to know how that works for people who don't have a broken episodic memory. Anyway, so that's my video for today. I think brains are fascinating, and I love comparing how my memory works, because hearing how other people's memory works helps me understand how mine differs, like compare contrast. It's like, oh, I didn't know brains work that way. That's interesting, because that is not my experience, that kind of thing. So if you have any questions, definitely ask them in the comment section. And I love answering respectful questions. And if you would like another updated video on aphantasia, because I haven't done one in a while, I will do that too. Thanks, guys. Bye.